read between the lines. Got to read, got to read between the lines. Well, the truth is very simple, very hard to find.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another edition of What's Going On. I'm your host, Tom DeAmbra. As always, my friends, we are very thankful you take the time from your busy day to join us. We hope you'll find our information stimulating, and we also hope that, as we've said before, we only have an hour's time to chat with you today, so we hope that you will get a pen and paper out, take some notes, and hopefully you will continue in your research to discover truth and obtain knowledge. My friends, sometimes all this information can be a burden. It's not an easy thing to contemplate and come to the realization of a couple of things. One, that basically the reality that the bankers present to our people is pure deception. And two, to have the understanding that what we've been taught in history is a facade. 90% of it is a facade. So I thought maybe today that we would open up with a little bit of humor. I know this is outside our normal protocols and what we do, but I just think that this humor ties into basically a lot of the information that we present and also the mindset of these bureaucrats. So let's get into this little bit of humor here. Rather interesting, especially considering what's taken place in Nevada with the Clive and Bundy episode, and now also there's another event going on in Texas. And the humor starts like this. A DEA agent stopped at a ranch in Texas and talked to an old rancher. He told the rancher, "I need to inspect your ranch for illegally grown drugs." The rancher said, "Okay, but don't go into that field over there," as he pointed out the location. The DEA agent verbally exploded and said, "Look, mister, I have the authority of the federal government with me." Reaching into his rear pocket, the arrogant officer removed his badge and proudly displayed it to the rancher. "See this badge? This badge means I can go wherever I want, on any land. No questions asked, no answers need to be given. Do you understand, old man?" The rancher kindly nodded, apologized, and went about his chores. Moments later, the rancher heard loud screams. He looked up and saw the DEA agent running for his life, being chased by the rancher's big, Santa gratuitous bull. With every step, the bull was gaining ground on the officer, and it was likely that he'd sure enough get gored before he reached safety. The officer was clearly terrified. The old rancher threw down his tools, ran as fast as he could to the fence, and yelled at the top of his lungs, "Your badge! Your badge! Show him your badge!" Oh, my friends, I just thought that was outstanding. And it pretty much sums up the attitude of these people. Not all of them with badges, but I'll say a vast majority of them, especially at the federal level, their mindset that where their relationship is with the American people. They feel that they have all the power. They feel that they know the system is corrupted and is going to back them up. And they don't fear the American people whatsoever. But maybe that little experience of a joke, mind you, will put some thought into these people, the reality and the arrogance of these people who come on people's property with their supposed authority. My friends, they have no authority without our compromising to it. And what I mean by that is they need us to cooperate with their authority. They know this. They are very concerned. Zbigniew Brzezinski, as we spoke about in previous shows, making the comment that there is a political awakening happening in the world that the world has never witnessed in its history. Hillary Clinton speaking about at the Council on Foreign Relations meeting a couple of years ago when she said that there is an information war going on, and we are losing that war. My friends, the we that she was talking about was not you and I, the American people. The we that she was talking about were the people, at the Council on Foreign Relations meeting that is orchestrating this deception. But I hope you enjoyed that joke. I thought it was hilarious when I first read it. I laughed quite a bit about it, and I thought it was a perfect setting with the information that we're going to go forward with. Okay, a couple of things we're going to speak of today. There is a big deal going on that we spoke about, I want to say probably 10 months ago in the beginning of this Shanghai Agreement, which took place last May. Basically, that would be a year ago, obviously, but about 2 months after that, there was, out of the Shanghai Agreement, there was a deal that was being fomented between Moscow and Beijing, and it had to do with gas, natural gas, which of course Russia is the #1 producer of natural gas in the world. Well, it appears, my friend, that this deal is about done. And you may be saying to yourself, why am I bringing this up? Well, I want to tell you why I'm bringing this up, because this is another nail in the coffin for what you call the dollar. Now, if you've been watching this program, you understand that we do not have dollars. We have Federal Reserve notes, and I don't have the time to get into all this again. We did a show on it, which was, we've done multiple shows on this. As a matter of fact, I mentioned to you last week that I think that we are going to do, because our audience grows and grows on a weekly basis, that we're going to do another perspective of our money system, or as I say, our lack of money system. And I think Henry Ford in 1933 summed it up the best when he said that it is well the American people do not understand our money system, for if they did, I fear there would be revolution by morning. Well, my friends, the wars that we have been waging, and the butchering that we have been doing, and the profiting the bankers and corporations have made on our bleeding, basically is about the dominance, or now down to the survivability of what you perceive to be the American dollar, as I said, which is not a dollar. And if you're watching the show for the first time, I invite you to read the Coinage Acts, what we've read to you verbatim, where a dollar is 25.8 grains of gold and a 15-to-1 ratio of silver. There is no gold, there is no silver backing up a dollar. It's a Federal Reserve note. Federal Reserve, private, foreign, for-profit banking corporation, note, any law, dictionary, and acknowledgement of debt. That's why there's two signatories, my friend. One's the creditor, one's the debtor. You are the surety to that debt. We have gotten into this numerous times. So basically, this deal, and I'm just going to read this article here. This is from Nia Zavonsky, and I apologize if I'm not pronouncing the name properly. A contract on Russian gas deliveries to China is nearing completion, and the finishing touch may be added ahead of President Putin's upcoming visit to Beijing, Russian Deputy Energy Minister Antonov Yavonsky said Monday. The contract is 98% ready. The final touch may be added prior to the president's visit, Yavonsky told at the press conference in early March. Gazprom chief Alexander Miller said the Russian energy giant hoped to sign sign by the end of May a 30-year agreement with China to supply its annual 38 billion cubic meters of natural gas. The tentative agreement between Gazprom and China Natural Petroleum Corporation has been overseen by President Vladimir Putin and Chinese Premier Xi Jinping in its completion, and has been delayed over pricing disagreements. Export volumes are expected to eventually rise to 60 billion cubic meters a year. My friends, I won't get into the rest of the entire article, but you have to understand one thing. This is not going to be done in what you perceive to be the dollars. Now, we went to war on a facade. They had to sell it to the American people in Iraq as basically that, we were weapons of mass destruction, and we all know that was a facade. We knew what weapons Saddam Hussein had, because we sold him the weapons. We knew what chemical weapons Saddam Hussein had? Because we sold him the chemical weapons. And we knew what he did in northern Iraq to the Kurds, gassing his own people, because we gave him permission to do it. Now, when this deal is done, and it's going to get done, the rest of the war, we're going to go to war with, like we did in Iraq over when Saddam Hussein came out and said, I'm going to accept the euros for my oil. Oh, and now I'm going to develop the dinar based on the value of a barrel of oil. The world would have flocked to it, my friends, because it had some intrinsic value. The American dollar, the only reason why people are using it is because in the early 70s when we formed OPEC, and yes, now you're thinking, wait a minute, we didn't form OPEC. Oh, yes, we did. We, the United States, formed OPEC. And what we did, and we did a whole show on this, and I've mentioned this numerous times, is that we basically went up to Saudi Arabia and said, listen, we are not going to get involved with your domestic affairs. You can just rule your people with the jackbooted thugs that you've been doing for centuries. You can keep your people in poverty. You can keep your people in ignorance. You can treat your women the way you do. We're not going to get involved with that. You can keep all your cultures, all your religions. But what you're going to do is we're going to buy all our oil from you. And you are going to be profitable beyond your wildest imagination. And we are going to protect you militarily. And then you, Saudi Arabia, are going to take a percentage of your earnings, and you are going to buy our treasury bonds to keep this deception, the facade going, because as we know, in the early 70s, Nixon took us off the final gold standard. It was off the gold standard domestically, but foreignly there was still gold and silver backing the dollar. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true. We were actually printing two separate dollars, believe it or not. Look this up. We did a whole show on this. But basically, to keep this facade going, Saudi Arabia agreed to the terms that they would spend a percentage of their earnings and buy treasury bonds, which keeps it going. So, my friends, the reason why the dollar is the reserve currency, and what I mean by that is if any nation wants to sell and or buy a barrel of oil, they have to exchange their currency in dollars. That's why the rest of the world had reserve currency in dollars. It wasn't because the dollar was strong, it was because everyone needs petroleum products, and by the force of the barrel of a gun, we are being forced to exchange our local currency into dollars to buy and or sell that barrel of oil. Well, when Hussein said, I'm no longer going to do that, or at least open up other avenues, we got weapons of mass destruction, American people. We got to go take care of this. When Gaddafi out of Libya, who had his nation was prospering more than any other country in Africa with education, all of it, the aquifers, I mean, all of it, folks. When you really get into what was going on in Libya, of course, we make Gaddafi, that we've been taught that Gaddafi was this brutal dictator. Well, my friends, it just wasn't the case. I have gone on the internet and I have listened to shortwave radio interviews with people who actually lived there in their lifetimes. And it was not the case at all. Libya was prospering. But what Gaddafi did, and his mistake was, and I told my friends that as soon as he did it, I said, this will be the end of him. And it was within 60 days. And what that statement that he made was, I will no longer accept American dollars for my oil. Why? Why would you want to accept them? They're a depreciating commodity. They lose value every day. Gaddafi was smart. He saw the end of the tunnel, and it's not in light, it's in darkness for the American dollar. Do you remember that we read verbatim to you the statement from the Obama aide where he actually came out and said, we are going to kill the American dollar? Why? Because they want to bring in the global currency. And that global currency is the SDR, special drawing rights. And I hate to say this again, but we did a whole show on that also. So this is where we are. And now are we going to go to war with Russia and China over the survivability of the dollar? That's not going to turn out too well for the American people, is it? Or the world for that matter. But my friends, the whole thing is collapsing. And if the people actually start waking up and looking for questions and getting answers, the bankers are not going to like the answers the American people are going to discover. So with the whole thing collapsing, what we have to do, if you're the bankers, is create another crisis so you can blame it on the next world war. And that's exactly where they're going. But this Russian, Beijing, Chinese oil deal, my friends, is huge, and it is the beginning of the end for the American dollar. Actually, it's just another nail in the coffin. And I have spoken to you numerous times about whether or not, in fact, I could not come to grips whether Putin was playing ball with the international bankers. Well, I found an interesting article in the American Free Press, and the headline reads, Putin stymies the globalists. Russia leaves one worlders out in the cold by challenging their international system. Putin may yet break the back of the New World Order. This is an article written by Mark Anderson. In the wake of late April meeting of the Trilateral Commission and with the 2014 Bilderberg meeting dead ahead in Denmark. Did you hear that? Now, we already know we got the Trilateral Commission, which we've spoken about, coordinating the events basically of the two Americas and Asia. And then you got the Bilderberg meeting, which is a secret meeting that is not so secret anymore because people are waking up to it. And basically, my friends, what happens here is this is where the real controllers, the string holders, if you would, of the puppets that we're allowed to see, this is where they get together with their puppets. They organize and give the marching orders of what they're going to do the coming year. And if you ever read the book by Jim Tucker, the Bilderberg Diary, really interesting. Because, for example, big events in history that have taken place, he wrote about prior to it happening. The East and West Germany, the wall coming down. The supposed end of communism, all this stuff. Folks, this was all planned. Everything is planned. This doesn't happen by chance. What was it that Franklin Delano Roosevelt said? Nothing in politics happens by chance. It's absolutely true. This is all orchestrated. So I'm beginning to believe, my friends, that Putin is not playing ball with the bankers. And this is why we've enveloped his country militarily. This is why we're in the underbelly of Russia now in the Ukraine. This is why we have put sanctions against Russia. This is why we are basically trying to bankrupt Russia. And this is why Putin is trying to wean himself from that reserve currency we just spoke about being the dollar. Because Putin and China see what's going on. Now, China obviously is playing along with the bankers. And why would they not? The bankers have got the American people financing the development, industrial development of the slave labor economy in China. And if you say, how can that be? Well, look at CAFTA, NAFTA, GATT, all these free trade agreements that we are financing the demise of our own nation because we give tax incentives to companies like GM and many, many others to go overseas, particularly to China. Now, China is sort of painting themselves into the corner. And what I mean by that is if they break the backs of the dollar, will that come back and bite them? Because it will make the Chinese yuan, through the Shanghai Agreement, the premier currency of the world. It's already number 2. As we reported to you when the Shanghai Agreement went into effect in May of last year, it only took 5 months before the Chinese yuan surpassed the euro as the most used currency in the world. And I remember I spoke about this at the show, and I remember reading this and then looking at the news, the propaganda outlets on TV. And what was the big story on TV? The skin color of Santa Claus. I'm not making it up. Look it up. I know it sounds just so ridiculous, but that's exactly what it was. And I just had to think, my God, how dumbed down can the American people get? But my friends, so China is in a little bit of a predicament. Now, I am not naive enough to think that China is going to go against the bankers. They have absolutely no reason to. China has blossomed through the sweat equity of the American people under the command of the international bankers who have bled this country and are shipping it all to the slave labor economy. As Henry Kissinger said back in the 70s in the White Papers, and Rockefeller coincided with the statement that, and I quote, China is the model of the future. And that's exactly where we are. And the Chinese people are in a slave labor economy. Now, they're starting to wake up and they're starting to organize themselves, but that's the situation they are in right now. And every time you buy these cheap Chinese products, they're cheap for two reasons. One, the slave economy, and two, because they are devaluing the Chinese yuan to make their exports cheaper. They don't want to have a premier Chinese yuan right now. And the reason being, because if it has a higher value, it takes more of the other currencies to equal the value to purchase the products. Are you with me? It's very simple. So between the slave labor that these people are suffering through and between the devaluation of the Chinese yuan, the products, even though they have to ship them over here, oh, and let me back up, and the reduction of the export and import taxes, tariffs by the federal government, it's all garbage in the sense of the material it's conscripted labor, my friends, does not bring a quality product. History shows this. If you look at the famous battle in the southern island of Honshu in Japan, when China attacked, this is where the famous battle where the divine wind, Japanese, kamikaze, okay? This battle took place and a hurricane, they call them typhoons, came through. And basically, my friends, what happened was that the ships fell apart, particularly the main post that go into the keel of the ships. They loosened because it was conscripted labor. There's not quality there, and it's the same thing with the Chinese products. And this is why it's like this, because it's all about numbers. It's not about quality. Just get it out, get it out, get it out, get it out. Where American products were known for quality and production back in the day, and the reason was because it was a vibrant middle class. Well, that middle class is no longer existing. So we have to ask ourselves, between this deal and with, I don't have the time to get into this whole article now, unfortunately, that basically, my friends, Putin is not playing ball with the bankers. And this can make for some very interesting and dangerous circumstances and conditions of events in our world right now. Because Putin understands what is going. He's a very, very smart man. And he understands what's at stake. Yes, he's a nationalist. Ooh, is a bad word. Is a politically incorrect word. He's a nationalist. He's looking out for his nation, his people. But the other end of this is he understands what's at stake for the world. For the world. And we are at the culmination crisis, as Albert Pike called it. We are about to enter this field. Okay, let us continue. FBI investigating the Bundy supporters at the BLM dispute. Now, isn't it interesting that the Just Us department sends their jackbooted thugs to go and investigate Americans who were in the right. And what I mean by that, and we covered it on this show, Harry Reid, Senator Harry Reid, and his son Rory, who was the liaison between the two companies, was selling land that was valued at over $38 million that they did not have rights to because the state of Nevada owns the land, to a Chinese company called ENN. And when you look up ENN, you will see it is a division of the PLA, the People's Liberation Army of China. So, and his son Rory was the main liaison between the federal government, who had no rights to the land. My friends, the federal government does not have any rights to land within the states. Territories, enclaves, districts only, like the District of Criminals, Washington, D.C. That's why there are districts. That's why there are territories. That's why there are enclaves. That's why there are states. And Cliven Bundy, who was paying and continues to pay the state of Nevada for the grazing rights that have been in his family for 144 years, was absolutely correct. The federal government had no right to make a claim against him. His contract, rightfully so, is with the state of Nevada. The federal government has no right to sell a possession that they don't possess, except by the force of guns. So now the FBI is investigating the thousands of people that came to support this courageous man and his wife. They're not going to investigate all the fraud that's going on, which we can get into. No, they're going to investigate people like you and I who showed up to support Cliven Bundy in his just cause. Okay, Michael Greenwald. Very interesting story here. Michael Greenwald, criticism of President Hillary Clinton will be labeled misogynistic, like the opposition to Obama today is depicted as racist. In an interview with GQ magazine, journalist Glenn Greenwald warns that when Hillary Clinton wins the presidency in 2016, criticism of her policies will be labeled misogynistic, just as criticism of Obama has been characterized as racist. Hillary is banal, corrupted, drained of vibrancy and passion. I mean, she's been around forever. The Clinton circle. Now he uses language that I cannot use. She is a bleep hawk and a neocon. Wait a minute, she's a neocon? I thought neocons were always just the Republicans on the right. But wait a minute, she's a Democrat on the left. Folks, there's no difference. They are the same entity. That is part of the divide paradigm, to make you think that you actually have choice. There is no choice. They're the same thing. She's surrounded by all these sleazy money types who are just corrupting everything everywhere. But she's going to be the first female president. And women in America are going to be completely invested in her candidacy. Opposition to her is going to be depicted as misogynistic, like opposition to Obama has been depicted as racist. It's going to be this completely symbolic messaging that's going to overshadow the fact that she'll do nothing but continue everything in pursuit of her own power. Noting that America has a permanent government that doesn't get affected by election results or choices, and that it is in any way accountable to any sort of democratic transparency and just creates its own world off on its own. Greenwald adds that Americans love to mock the idea of a monarchy, and yet we have our own de facto monarchy. Given that this work is embraced by much of the left, which is often prone to playing the race or gender card as a means of silencing dissenting voices, Greenwald's warning about how the elite will exploit Hillary's gender to frame criticism of her as a sexist is a powerful statement. Greenwald also warns they'll probably have a gay person after Hillary who's just going to do the same thing. However, this goes far deeper than just the 2016 presidential election. Now, folks, you've got to understand, I find this comment rather interesting because Greenwald is openly gay. And I hate using that word. Gay means to be joyous, to be happy. But they politicalize that word to mean you are a lesbian or homosexual. Because only lesbians and homosexual are happy. You know, I had a young child, I don't know, 8, 10 years ago, we were singing Christmas songs. And the song was put on your gay apparel. Well, this poor child was completely taken back. And he asked me if Santa Claus was gay because he wears gay apparel. And this really struck me. And I had to explain to him, this young child, that the word's meanings has been changed from his original intent, which was gay, to be happy, to be joyous. And this is the doublespeak, the control that they have even over our language through manipulation and deception and constantly pounding it home in the different media segments, radio, television, indoctrination. Oh, excuse me, you know them as education centers, schools. So I find it interesting that that Greenwald, is, even though he's openly homosexual, is saying here that they're going to use all the divide paradigms that they have developed to pursue their cause. And they're very effective at it. Why? Because the American people are extremely apathetic, naive, ignorant, and gullible. There appears to be a deliberate effort amongst the political establishment and the entertainment industry to silence conservative voices by going too far as to categorize opposition to issues such as gay marriage or abortion as actual thought crimes that should be punished by extra-legal monetary or career sanctions. Phil Robertson invited his ideological persecution thanks to a massive backlash against A&E's decision to suspend Duck Dynasty star. But in a case which received less publicity, Home Improvement Network, HGTV, canned a new show, Benham Brothers. I have no idea what the show's about, my friends. I do not waste my time with this entertainment. Do you know when you watch TV, and please don't shut the TV off now, do you know when you watch TV you are actually in a classified hypnotic state? Next time you're with a child who's watching TV, watch the child. You will see they are in a class 1 hypnotic state. It's unbelievable. And they know this. This was done on purpose. After gay rights groups demanded that the pair's opposition to same-sex marriage be penalized, what'd they do? Took them off the air. The Donald Sterling controversy has also established the chilling precedent that privately recorded conversations which take place inside the home now carry the same consequences as public statements. And Donald Sterling, I believe, is the owner of the LA Clippers and the National Basketball Association, who's, by the way, whose girlfriend is half Asian and half black. How does that work? We now have officially entered the era of thought crime, where views, opinions, whether they be offensive or merely political in nature, which are deemed to challenge the liberal ethics or that express dissent against members of the ruling elite, are now merely censored, are not merely censored, but also the subject of retribution on behalf of the state and the mass media as part of a targeted public humiliation campaign. Strong, strong words from Mr. Greenwald. Okay, let us continue. We have been following, as you know, the Obamacare. Well, very interesting, my friends. The bankers really need this to get done. Okay? The bankers have been after control of, first of all, the health industry in this nation is a failure. It wasn't before the Rockefeller Foundation American Medical Association got involved. It wasn't before the government got involved. We had the best, lowest cost, most proficient, and efficient healthcare system in the world. We had a healthy, vibrant people. Cancer rates were through the floor. I mean, I can go on and go on about this. But as we know from watching this program, that the cancer program is part of, as the elite call it, the soft kill program. Now you're probably saying, if you're just watching this program, what do you mean the cancer program? Well, what I mean by that, my friends, is that the cancer program is a weapon. And it is a weapon that is listed under their soft kill program. They have hard kill programs. War is the classic example of a hard kill program. They have soft kill programs. Famine, cancer. So why all of a sudden, in the past 40 to 50 years, and every day the numbers go up, is cancer so prevalent in our society? Well, my friends, because there is a program being waged, a war being waged against your body, against your health. And it's done in a multifaceted. It's done through the vaccination programs. And if we did a whole show on the vaccinations, SV40, Sierra Victor 40. I invite you again, go on the internet, punch in SV, Sierra Victor 40, and you will see that is a cancer agent that was and continues to be placed into vaccinations. Fluoride, the number one ingredient in rat and mice poison, is throughout your system. The water, your toothpaste. My friends, you're using fluoride toothpaste? I invite you to turn, I don't care what the maker is, turn the tube over, read it. And it'll say the following: if this product is swallowed, contact poison control immediately. Why are you giving this to your children? Because someone told you it helps with tooth decay? Do you know what fluorosis is? You ever see people that got these white spots all over their teeth? You know what that's from? That is from the fluorosis that's eating the enamel of your teeth, and it's because of fluoride treatments. As a matter of fact, unbelievably so, the American Dental Association has actually now reduced dramatically what their recommendations are for fluoride. Look what happened to IQs in counties throughout the nation when they put fluoride in the water. They dropped dramatically. Fluoride affects the brain. It is a toxin. It's a poison. It is on the hazmat list. For all you firefighters out there, get out your hazmat list and look up fluoride. Number one, you will see it encompasses a tremendous amount of chemicals. But number two, you will see it's a hazmat. If I took a gallon of fluoride and dumped it on that floor right there, we would have to call the St. Johnsbury Fire Department, who would come in under hazmat conditions. Look it up. Do you think the elite are using fluoride in their children? Absolutely not. Do you remember when Tony Blair signed a law mandating all children in England will be vaccinated? And then that one reporter asked him, do your children take the same vaccinations? And he got all fired up about it. That's personal. You have no right to ask that. Folks, the answer is no. Aspartame, a well-known cancer agent. Okay? They couldn't get aspartame in through the FDA because it's that much of a cancer agent. So what did Searle Company do? S-E-A-R-L-E, look it up. They hired a fella by the name of Donald Rumsfeld to make the appropriate payoffs and the appropriate connections with the FDA. Oh, and within 90 days, even though we couldn't get this done for 12 years, within 90 days, old Donna Rumsfeld got it done. So now aspartame is in your drinks, and you think you're helping yourself out because, oh, I'm not drinking sugar, but I'm drinking aspartame. You ever notice people who drink diet drinks are the heaviest? The unhealthiest? Aspartame is a poison. It is a chemical cancer agent. GMO food, look at Monsanto. I praise Vermont. You're going to be hopefully the first state in the nation to say, no, we're going to mandate that you label GMO food, genetically modified organisms. Folks, if you're eating GMO food, you have no understanding what you think you're eating an apple. You're eating so many different things, you have no idea what it is. What was that old song from the 60s? You know, give me the birds and the bees and the spots on my apples and leave the DDT. It's exactly it. I'd rather have a blemish on my banana than be eating GMO bananas. Why? Because I have studied GMO food. I have studied Monsanto. We have brought to you GMO facts in this program. We presented to you The World According to Monsanto as a documentary for 2 weeks. And if you missed that, go on the internet, punch it in. It's there. So, folks, I can go on and go on and go on about the soft kill cancer program. Children are being born with cancer now. They don't have a shot in life. Hitler, you know who the first person to put fluoride in any water system was? It was Stalin during the gulags. Hitler saw the results of it and put it in the labor camps, you know, as concentration camps, in Poland and Germany. The Americans, through Operation Paperclip, when we took all these scientists from Germany and brought them over here, saw the results of the fluoride in the water, how it made them cowardly, apathetic, dumbed down their IQs, and we put it in the water system. Wake up. Do your own research. Don't be giving your children fluoridated toothpaste because some Rockefeller Foundation organization says it's good for your teeth. Do you think Hitler and Stalin were worried about the quality of the dental care of the prisoners in the gulags and the labor camps? Think, folks. Sorry, I get upset. I mean, I don't know how much the American people are so gullible that they swallow this stuff, literally. But yet, if you turn that tube of toothpaste over, it'll say right there verbatim, if this product is swallowed, contact poison control. Why? Because it's got fluoride in it. It's a poison. My friends, the medical in this country is, number one, 1/7 of the entire economy. Number two, do your research on like the American Cancer Foundation. You'll never run another marathon again in your life. Look where their money goes. Look at the property the American Cancer Society, Society owns and has. Look at the money that their CEO and all the hierarchy of the American Cancer Society make. And by the way, where's the cure? And don't say we're having success against cancer. Absolutely not. Do your own research. We are losing the war on cancer. And make no mistake, my friends, it is a war that's being waged against us. That's just one facet of it. The chemtrails. How many of you in the area of the Northeast Kingdom will look up in the sky and you'll see what you perceive to be contrails, and all of us, and the jets go by, and you got this big white stream of steam, smoke, whatever you perceive it to be, and the contrail, which is the heated condensation of the steam coming out of the engines, that dissipates goes away. But the chemtrail, my friends, what that does is that develops and builds and develops and builds. Till finally you have a beautiful blue sky, but you see this tic-tac-toe checkerboard across the sky, and now you got clouds. The Idaho Observer, back in the early part of this century, did a wonderful research project. They went up into the sky, they flew into the chemtrails, they took samples, airborne samples of the chemtrails, and they took it to a private lab, and the private lab came out with cancer agents, barium, aluminum. There was a bill in the late 90s in Congress to actually stop the spraying, which was voted down, which is an admittance that they're doing it. They openly admit they're doing this, friends. There's no more denying this. Of course, they say it's for global warming. Oh, that's right. We had a tough winter this year. That's right. That's because Al Gore said this is because the glaciers are melting and the cold water came down and messed up the vortexes. You really believe that? By the way, just yesterday, I read a scientific data about what's going on with the glaciers. And guess what? They're growing exponentially. Growing exponentially. Of course, if you read the mainstream media last week, you saw the big headlines about satellite photos. Current satellite photos show that the glaciers are melting, dissipating. Folks, it's spring. They're supposed to. So how long are you going to poison your children? How long are you going to question why we're losing the battle of cancer? And think about this, my friends. In 1928, a guy named Dr. Raymond Royal Rife was killing cancer cells with sound waves. But what do? We're going to give you radiation. What does radiation cause? Cancer. We're going to give you chemotherapy. What's the base of chemotherapy? Mustard gas. That's outlawed for warfare by the Geneva Convention. Can't you not see the war that is being waged against you? Your mind, your health, your pocketbook, your land, your happiness, the future of our nation. We are in trouble. And I have digressed to the point where I'm not even going to get into the main material of the program today. I apologize. But my friends, now the war is one of economics. Because we, the bankers, have proven that all of this, the wars that we've been through. Oh, by the way, how is it that the CEO of the insolvent corporation, Barry Soetoro, oh, I'm sorry, you know him as Barack Obama. How is it that he got the Nobel Peace Prize, but yet he's invaded 6 countries since he's been president? You remember the most transparent administration the country's ever going to see, with secret deals going on for the Trans-Pacific Partnership that not even members of Congress are allowed to see. So who's doing the negotiation? And who has the authority to sign off the American people on these agreements? Certainly not the president, only the Senate by the Constitution. But the Constitution is no longer in effect, my friends. As George Bush said, I can't use his language, but as he said publicly, the Constitution is just a GD piece of paper. He didn't say GD, he said the whole language. He's right. We've lost it. It's no longer in effect, my friends. It's only in effect if you have the knowledge and you have the ability to use it. But you're mistaken if you think the Constitution gave you rights. It does not. Your rights are unalienable, not unalienable. They didn't come from Mars or some spaceship out in deep space. Unalienable. In other words, they can't be leaned. They can't be taken away. They are granted to you as a human being through your Creator. They are not privileges granted to you by an insolvent corporation answering to foreign bankers that you call the United States government. They are unalienable, and everyone is created equal. Does that mean that I can jump as high as Michael Jordan? No. It's not a statement of physical capabilities. It is a statement of law and political standing. We are created equal, with rights granted by our Creator, which are unalienable. They are not privileges. They are rights. And the Bill of Rights is telling the federal government, putting them on notice of these rights. You will not take our guns. You will not stop us from the practice of religion or assembling peacefully. The jury system, all of that. These rights aren't granted you by a GD piece of paper, as George Bush said. They've got you convinced of that. Well, if I'm getting my rights from the government, then I guess the government has the right to alter or take them away because they're the grantor. No, they're not. The grantor is God. Oh, now I've really said a bad word, huh? God, the Creator. You see, friends, if you take away the foundation of a building, of a nation, that building or that nation will sink into the sand and or be demolished by whoever is perceived to be the grantor. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? This is where we are. And the American people need to get back to that foundation in knowledge, in understanding, and in activism. Because history is a barometer, and history shows us we as a nation cannot continue down the road that we are. Please, if you do one thing out of this program today, go look at the back. This sounds so simple to me. Go look at the back of your fluorinated toothpaste and get the number for poison control, because I'm going to tell you something. When I'm in the medical field, my friends, and there's a thing called buccal and sublingual. And the mucous membranes underneath your tongue go into your blood system like that. The only quicker way that I can put medications into you is through IV. Intravenous, right into the bloodstream itself. So when you're brushing your teeth with this fluoride, this toxic waste, which by the way is a byproduct of producing aluminum, look it up, you will see that sublingually and buccally, both ways, instantaneously that toxin is entering your bloodstream. You do not have to swallow it. Why do you think they give nitro sublingually, under the tongue? Because it's spontaneous. So go home, or go in the bathroom if you are home after this program, and take a look at that toothpaste. Take a look at the sky when you see the contrails compared to the chemtrails. And understand the war that is being waged against us. It's multifaceted. You don't own your land. You don't own your car. You're bonded as a surety to the debt of an insolvent corporation. They're poisoning you through the vaccinations and all we've just discussed. They've got your sons and daughters bleeding in foreign countries for the profits of corporations. And you're footing the bill for it. I got a statement right here, okay? You ready for this? And I'm running out of time, and I apologize. Federal tax revenues set record in the month of April. Okay? According to the monthly Treasury statement. Oh, not the U.S. Treasury. The monthly Treasury statement. Okay, and folks, I'm going to get into this in the next program. But, when you continue this statement all the way down with all these numbers, guess what? Guess what? The month of April, the federal government was still $307.383 billion in the hole. Even though they took in $1.7 trillion of your sweat equity. How much are you going to give to this failing process? How much you're going to give. Because they'll take as much as you allow them to take. The only parameters of the thirst and the greed of these tyrants is what you will accept. The average American is paying 62% of his sweat equity to this insolvent corporation and all its subsidiaries. Excuse me. So, who's raising the children? Because if 62% of your sweat equity / income is going outside and not benefiting you, both of you have to work. Both of you have to work just to stay alive. You're not gaining, you're just maintaining. So who's raising your children? Oh, that's right. These daycare centers. And now the kids, 4 years old, they're taking the kids. What was it that Hitler said? Give me your children for one generation and you will no longer matter. Well, they've got your children. And they've had them for over a generation. And my friends, parenting in this country has been diminished to the point where you will no longer matter. And the children can report on their parents. Because Mommy didn't let me watch my TV program last night. This is where we are, my friends. And I apologize that I took off on a tyrant of this, but I have to ask myself, how much will the American people take? We used to be a stand-up, courageous, active, involved people. Now, we're a dumbed-down, apathetic, cowardly, lethargic people. And we turn on the TV set and we think we're being told truth when the Supreme Court has come out and said that the news agencies are under no legal obligation to tell you the truth. Why? And we read this to you verbatim a couple of years ago because there was a reporter who said they're lying and took it figuring there's got to be some kind of law that there's got to be taken truth. No, my friends, they just give you information, whether it's true or not, and you are the responsible party to decipher it. There isn't too many times I agree with the Supreme Court, but this is one of them. You accept for truth what you accept for truth. Through your own knowledge and your deciphering the facts is what you come to the understanding of truth. But if you are just getting your information from the people who are lying to you and who the Supreme Court says is under no obligation to tell you the truth, well then guess what? Your life becomes deception. Your life becomes a lie. My friends, the truth is out there, and the dinosaur media is dying. And for those of you who are out doing the research and are vigilant in understanding and obtaining knowledge and seeking truth, I say thank you so much. You are the future if we are to have a future, and understand how important it is that you continue in your research and you let your friends and your family or perfect strangers know the truth with knowledge. We close this show in saying to you, seek truth, obtain knowledge, manifest kindness. And we always close in reminding you that your government is your responsibility. My friends, I thank you. We thank you for watching.
Got to read between the lines. Got to read